Hi everyone, John here. I just want to talk a little bit about the Covid-19 and Daniel Andrews, our state premier, who's going through, as he has been since March, going through such a difficult time. We were hoping, and Daniel Andrews was hoping as well, that I think we would get out of the stage 4 that we're in now, and by the 19th of this month that we were able to do that if things were going good. But they didn't think that things were going that great, in a sense that what they really wanted to do is to have a 2 weeks average, a rolling average of under 5 cases a day, and that's just not happening. So what is happening is we got down to say like 7 cases. Nobody died, and nobody's been dying in the last 3 or 4 days, which is just wonderful news, because it's really broken my heart, all the people that have died, and they've all been elderly people mostly. But anyway, what they really want is to get down to that under 5 for 2 weeks, but we're getting like 7 cases, and then we'll get like 11 cases, and then we might get 15 cases, then we'll get 9 cases, and then we'll get 14 cases. And exactly like yesterday or something like that, I think it was something like 12 or 13 cases, and then today is 14 cases. So now the government's thinking, well, this might be just as good as it gets at the moment in it. And so what he's thinking of doing is maybe not really reducing the restrictions that much, but maybe just reducing the restrictions just enough to make it a little bit easier for people, but not let everyone go about their normal life still. But just sort of put a bit of a smile on some people's faces and everything, because I think that's what, well, I think everyone needs that. But we are getting some things like some silly people down at the St Kilda beach. When it's a hot day, they all think, well, let's just go out, and they don't socially distance, and it's very hard to police a situation like that. And who knows if someone transfers the virus that way, if they have it, and that goes into the community again, and then we still have these high cases and everything. So it makes it really, really difficult. So and also I think there was a butcher shop in the major shopping centre in Chadstone Shopping Centre, and then I think one of those people drove to the country Victoria, which wasn't supposed to. I think it was down at Kilmore, and there's a cluster there in Kilmore that's broken out. Of course, you've got the cluster of maybe up to 15 or 18 people, I think, something like that, at the Chadstone Shopping Centre. So there's things like that are happening. There's also an inquiry going on at the moment into all the decisions that Daniel Andrews and everyone else has made, all the medical team and all that sort of stuff. So everyone's pointing fingers at everyone. Look, I think maybe they have to do that, because people have to be, if you're in a job of responsibility, then people have to be responsible for their job and their actions and their decisions. So I don't really like the pointing the finger so much. It's turning out now that some phone calls that were meant to be made, and people said that they weren't made, and the phone calls were meant to be about who was going to do the quarantining in the hotels where all the outbreaks actually started in Melbourne, and this is all what started it. And so they're saying that these people weren't professional, they weren't trained, and themselves, the security guards didn't care if they were trained or not anyway. I mean, maybe you can let them off the hook if they weren't trained and all the rest, but they also knew that the people that they were looking after were people from overseas that could very well have had Covid-19, and some of them did, and they would take them down to the shops and let them go and have coffee, and they would sit with them and they would talk to them and all the rest. So some of them got it, and then they went out into the community after the quarantine finished. They hadn't done their tests, it wasn't done properly, went into the community and it spread like wildfire, and so we've had all this problem. So there's an inquiry into that. But as it turns out, that some of the people that said that there wasn't any phone calls to certain people's offices in the government, now they've found out that there was, I think, like a 7-minute gap between conversations, and there was a phone call made to a certain person in Parliament who did receive the information that they were going to go ahead with what they went ahead with security guards rather than the Australian Federal Police looking after them, or the Army looking after them, or anyone else for that matter that was highly trained. They just went with people that weren't highly trained. They weren't doing a job that was really serving the country, so they weren't worried about their responsibilities. They were just going to work and earning money and all the rest. And I think even some of them had wanted to earn extra money as well, which I think I told in some of my other videos, where they had some Uber jobs, so they would go off and earn some Uber money, and while they were also getting paid for what they were doing when they weren't even there. So they didn't care about responsibility, they just cared about themselves. So it was an absolute debacle, and unlike the debacle that happened on the Ruby Princess in Sydney, which I just recently showed a video. That was actually the news that I showed you, that wasn't me presenting that, but they were lucky, like I said, in the sense that that was linked back to a cluster. So when all these people went home, there was just a list from the ship that they knew that these people were on the ship, and then they knew that where they lived, and so they could contact them all and they could quarantine them all, and then that was finished. So they were very, very lucky. Well, we didn't have that luck. So because it was all done very unprofessional here, and we're only finding out now, some members in the government that did receive or did have conversations with people saying that we're going to use security guard firms rather than Australian Federal Police, someone that's professional. They got released into the community, and then we just had community outbreaks, and then when they started testing people, they were tested positive, but then they were saying, well, were you in quarantine in these hotels? And because they were spread from the people from the hotels, the people that they were questioning were saying, well, no, they weren't. So they didn't, they panicked and they didn't know where it was going. So we had a lockdown, and then we started to get down to about 7 cases or something like that. Actually a little bit better than what we are at the moment, and then of course it was still out in the community and it spread again, and so on and so on. So but there is sort of news, a little bit of news now, that they're thinking, because they think that getting down to between 10 and 15 cases a day at the moment is maybe that's just the norm, maybe that's just normal. And it's going to be too long, too hard, too difficult for the community to wait until they get down to 2 weeks of under 5 cases a day. So they're thinking of maybe just changing some of the rules, like I said, and hopefully, we can have some sort of normal Christmas, something to look forward to for the people. Because there isn't anything, I've already spoken before, the amount of jobs that have been lost, and it's not just jobs that are lost, it's actually then some of the companies, or a lot of the companies that these people have worked for. Because this is the second lockdown, they weren't able to survive. So once they open up anyway, these people don't have a job, they actually don't have a job to go to. So no matter how much money that the government pours in, you have to pour it into a business to keep it afloat. But if the business has still all of its overheads, bills to pay, you can't stop paying rent on a business. There's going to be an owner that you're paying rent to, and that person probably then owes money to the bank. Maybe he owns it, but he has a loan with the bank. So everyone down, and then also the banks are going to say, well, look, I can't let you off the hook forever. It's already been 6 months, so they want their money. The people that are renting the places out, they want their money, and then the government can only give so much money to a business as well. So, but the thing is, a lot of the businesses that have been stopped as well from the government saying that it will cause too much community transfer, so therefore the businesses can't run. Because of all that, the amount of money that was going to be given to these people just to keep their businesses alive, then that money just would have all gone to banks, would have all gone to places that they're renting and all the rest. So then the people themselves wouldn't be able to pay their own bills or pay for food or pay for anything themselves. So those businesses are closed. So they are saying that hopefully they might bring some of the jobs, government jobs and all the rest that was going to be forecast for, say, 2021 and 2022, that they might bring forward. Maybe some construction, some building, some road works. They might make it a little bit easier for some of the French benefit taxes, some of the GST for a certain period of time that businesses have to pay. They may put a hold on that as well to help them. And they are going to help their businesses up until March. But after March next year, which seems like a long way away and seems like it's a good plan, in theory it is, but I think the Covid-19 has hit these businesses so hard that what they need is, they also need consumer confidence as well, for people to go back and start spending. Well, that's the problem another problem where I don't think it's going to happen. I think people now are holding on to their money, and if they are, the people that are working at the moment are actually saving money. They're not buying cars, they're not buying furniture, they're not buying clothes, they're only buying food, and they're banking their money. Just so I think that long term, it's going to be long term for the shops before they ever make any money again, if they make any money at all. And because we've been in such a lockdown, people are buying online now as well. So there's a lot of businesses now that may not get the business up and running again, because people might choose to get used to buying online instead of going to the shops. They might just go to the shops for an outing, have coffee, have something to eat, but they may not go and buy. But anyway, there is some good news. So, not much, but hopefully we have some little changes, some minor, something to look forward to. But I don't think Christmas will be really a normal Christmas either. It might be just a little bit better than what we're thinking, but I don't think it's going to be anything great. And I don't think there's any sort of travel that we can do overseas next year anyway, certainly not in America or Europe, because Australia's already said that we're not going to have that in 2021. So, but anyway, thank you for viewing my channel, and sorry that's a bit serious, but I just thought I'd let everyone know. And have a wonderful day, and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.